Next, as we see in our case, since the production has to be constant, and since the demand goes up in the middle, we basically will have the situation where we will have both the holding and the penalty costs. And now let us see how these two interplay. Namely, let's play around a little with the production amount. Let's say that it's 90, then 92, and let's copy these numbers until we will have something like 110. And now let's do a data table, which was to write in here equals this J20, which is the final bottom line. But the thing is that we can take a look at how this worksheet has been built up. We go to the final cell and we click on formulas, and we choose trace precedence, and here it is. It starts going step by step, showing how this worksheet was built up. It also shows us how the inventory is built up from the previous step, one by one again. Okay, so that's what our worksheet looks like. Now the thing to do here is we've already tied together the bottom line cells with equals, but these numbers, the production amounts, have not been tied together, so we will select them all in one and do data, what if analysis, data table, and we will do as column input cells. Since these here are in the column beneath each other, we will use column input cell, and column input cell is production amount. So now everything is tied to the main model. And now we click OK, and it calculates the table for us. And let's write it down as a scatter graph, because we have on the left side also the x-axis, the production amounts. Okay, so let's use scatter graph. Let's use a dotted version, because this smooth version will now perhaps hide what's really going on in here. And here it is. As we see, the production amount going up will initially result in higher and higher profits. So somewhere around 105 or so, the profits are the highest. We can look it up in here. So at 104, the profits are 2,389, and they are the highest. Now, if we produce even more, let's say we produce more than let's write in here 104. Here it is. The profits are high, and as we see, the only time we really have the penalty costs, which are higher, 25 as compared to holding costs, is really only the last period, and only to a small amount. And we have this 2,389. Now, let's enter 105. Let's see what happens then. Now the profits are already smaller. We won't have, though, any penalty costs. So what we see here is a kind of a compromise between penalty and holding costs. This is something we see, for instance, in economic ordering quantity models and business as well. So something that really comes up in different models. Now, the next thing to consider is the way the penalty cost was calculated. Let's put in here again 100, and we see that, for instance, we had a penalty cost of 16 units times 25 equals 423 in the 5th year. And now we pay this penalty cost, but still the minus inventory carries over to the next period, which in other ways is to say we pay the penalty, but we still have to meet the demand later on and pay for that as well. Now an alternative would have been, for instance, to do such a formula, which would have been a little bit more complex, in which case if we have a negative ending inventory and we will have the penalties would mean that we would go to a competitor who would, with a very high last-minute price of 25, sell us the missing inventory, and we would satisfy the customer's needs right away. In that case, it would mean that the negative inventory, let's say this first negative inventory here is -2, this negative inventory would not go over to the next period. It would basically mean that we would have to take our formula and say if C14, the last inventory, is negative, then we won't take anything with us. But if it's not negative, if it's positive, we will take the C14 with us. So once again, if the previous one had a penalty, since we went to the competitor and satisfied this penalty, we didn't have to take the negative inventory to this period. But if we had a positive inventory, it carried over. So let's write such a formula. Let's copy it. And let's see what changes. Now, let's see if the costs are now different. We copy the formula, and with a production amount of 100, we got from 1,855 to 2,329. So here it is. Here's our changing problem now. So it's always a matter of small nuances how to build up a model.